republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this day, this opportunity we have to be here. We are grateful for the opportunities we have to be as here in this community and be leaders and educators here in this community. We're grateful for the safety and protection we've been given and this hot, humid time, and we ask you to please bless those that have to work or do things outside, that they may be protected from this. We ask you to please bless this meeting as we go through the agenda, and that we will do and discuss the things which Thou would want us to do. Please help us to keep in mind what we have been charged to do as leaders in this community, to help the education of the children, that they may grow and develop into individuals that will be able to go throughout this country and throughout this world to be prosperous. We ask you to please help us to make decisions that would be pleasing unto Thee. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, we have future board meetings, September 10th, September 24th, and October 8th, all at 6 o'clock, all here at the administration building. I don't think there was any revisions to the agenda. We'll move on to recognition, public recognition. Hi.
Okay. First of all, have one from Mr. Snyder. He just wanted to make sure that he thanks the MSD maintenance and custodial teams for all the extra work preparing for the auction, the demo, and new construction over the summer. They moved more items than they can be counted in order to be ready for the elementary project. They also have done a great job keeping up with the dirt and dust from construction and locker rooms. And I'm sure all the principals could say that about all the things that were going on. We've certainly had a lot of dust, but that dust equals progress. So we thank you for doing that. So at this time, we're starting up again our staff spotlight. And again, this year we're doing the Teacher of the Year and also Staff of the Year of each school. And tonight, Mrs. Lewis brought with her Mr. Springer. And so if he could come up here, and I just forgot my paper. So Mr. Jeff Springer is the staff or the Teacher of the Year. And before we even move on, I'm going to go ahead and give this to him so I don't forget. But First Farmers Bank and Trust again is our sponsor for this. And so there is a $50 voucher for the online store that we have. So you can buy anything, probably red. Always going to be careful how I say that. So, but one thing I want to mention, so once the teachers from each building become the Teacher of the Year for their particular school, they can go ahead and apply for the Teacher of the Year for Indiana and actually for the district too also. And so one of the questions is, describe a project or initiative you've been involved in that deliberately creates culture in your classroom or school. Describe how you build and use relationships to collaborate and to teach students of all backgrounds, abilities, and identities. What is the status of the project today? And please include evidence of student impact. I'm not going to read all that. It was a tough question. But one thing I wanted to put at the end, because one thing we focus a lot on is relationships. So I won't read it all. If you want to see it later, I can give it to you if I have permission from Mr. Springer. But here's one of the paragraphs I wanted to read. It says, as they leave my classes at the end of the year, it is my practice to remind them that my door is always open. They can come for help or just to visit at any time throughout their high school years and beyond. Many take me up on my offer. I have even had a couple of parents who were taking classes come and get help from me. And are those parents that were students of yours or actually parents of the students that you
Parents
have?
of my students.
Okay.
They're taking a class somewhere.
That's what I thought. But, you know, as we teach for in an educational time, sometimes those parents were our students, right? So, anyway, so again, we want to congratulate congratulate you on that. Mrs. Lewis, would you like to share anything?
Yes, so Mr. Springer's been with us at Southwood 23 years, 32 years as an educator, and he really is the epitome of a dedicated, talented educator, team player, and just a leader overall. He's serving right now as one of our 5 mentors in our new Teacher Academy program, and then just days before school started, he jumped in without hesitation on taking a new course load when we had a resignation in the 11th hour. And so he knew it'd be easier for us to fill what he had already planned and prepped for the school year. And so he willingly jumped into the upper level courses where he should be anyway. But that's just 2 examples of how great he is as a person and as an educator. I can speak to him not only as an administrator, but as a former student. And he's just an incredible person all the way around. So truly my pleasure to have you as our teacher.
And I just want to say one other thing too, as not only a teacher, but he continues, I believe this coming year again, to do the Clay Target League, maybe.
We don't have anyone else, so.
So how many years have you done that now? Man,
6 or so, something like that.
yeah, so one of those things that we wanted to provide more opportunities for our students, and we looked to see if there were any interest, and then of course, you've been doing that for a lot of years, and just really appreciate that. He actually helps with both high schools, and so we appreciate what he does there. He has some people that, some of the student athletes that are actually shooting perfect scores too, so right? So, very good, so let's give him a round of applause. Three of us.
Sorry, I was so caught up in the moment, I didn't do my job. I have one job. Everybody smiling, you guys look very unhappy, smile. There, thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more just for the 2 of them.
Oh, yeah, okay. Perfect. Gotcha.
All right. Oh, yes. You know, I was going to give him an opportunity to say something. I didn't know if he was going to say anything, and I said, you know, you're limited to 10 minutes or 15 minutes and something like that, so I apologize, but I didn't forget. So go ahead.
Well, I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just want to say Southwood's a great place to work. And we've got phenomenal kids. Some of them, your kids I have taught. And it's good. I'm really excited about the new group of teachers we've got in. They seem like they're really going to be a good addition. So I feel like I'll be leaving it in good hands many years from now when I retire.
That's right,
All right.
that's
All right. Well, thank you very much. So, and you're welcome to stay here, but you can leave too, because that's, I don't know, you had dinner yet? Or
No.
are you going to go for dinner now? Okay, all right. So that's good. So, thank you. And we did have Ricky Reed, who is our staff of the year. He is our custodian, 2nd shift, and he just did not want to come, right? So do you want to say anything about Ricky, though? You just make sure you get that.
I will give it to him, yeah. He does not like the spotlight, so he's currently at Southwood in the hallways, meeting in the classrooms and everything. He has been at Southwood 32 years, and so you've been at like any athletic event, after school activity, you have probably seen him, even if you don't know him by name or by face. Just a great guy, and really just like Mr. Springer jumps in where it's needed. Last year when we were trying to fill the head custodian position, he took on those duties on top of what he was doing 2nd shift already. And so also, if you're in the halls after school hours or at night after an event, and you hear the music, it's coming from his radio CD boombox that he carries around and plugs in. So that truly is like a welcoming thing for those of us that are in the hallways after dark. Just a reminder that we need to make sure that our schools and our building are just welcoming at any time of the day. So, and he really does that. So the kids love him, the athletes really get to know him because they see him a lot too. So just a good guy.
Yeah, all right, well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right, now the business.
Well, we sure appreciate our staff and all that they do, and obviously some of these have been here for a long time, so.
He's gonna be here a lot longer too, the way it sounds.
Yeah, 20 more years.
Yeah, 20 more years. I'll be 52 years, right?
We'll move on to public comment for agenda items only. Anything? All right, we'll move into our agenda items. Approval our August 13th meeting minutes. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve our meeting August 13th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Financial reports. We've got claims. Anybody, any questions on any claims? Anybody have a chance to look through all those? See anything out of the ordinary? Signs are paid for, that
Yes,
everything's.
yes, I believe so. There might be a little portion left, but the majority of it.
So that was the big portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got along well working with that company.
Yeah, I think so. Laura did most of the work with them, but I think Tyler.
Yeah, I'm just curious if it was problematic.
Have we had any comments or complaints about being too bright? That was a concern at Northfield.
No, I've had positive comments about it,
Yeah,
but
all
nothing
positive.
negative.
We get a motion second to approve claims.
So moved, Scott.
Second.
Motion a second to approve claims. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Payroll.
Nothing new on payroll. This is, I mean, the August 15th pay is our last pay for last school year. So this next payroll will be reflecting where we're at and where we'll run with for this school year.
Move to payroll. I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve our payroll number 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay, financial summary. Chris?
Cash flow for education operation fund, just kind of laying out where we're at, where we've been these last 7 months and where we're headed these last 5 months. Nothing of area of concern. The big thing coming up will be what our ADM count is. That will be what will be reflected in our basic tuition support once we have that count day on October 1st. And then from an operation standpoint, again, just highlighted things that we've been paying for that could be reimbursed as far as reimbursing ourselves back from the bond that we'll be taking out for the Northfield Elementary Metro North project. And so those dollars are being reflected there, which kind of shows you where we'll be towards the end of the year based on some of those anticipated figures. One big thing is it's showing right now, since I've been here, we've been used to transferring some monies out of operation in the rainy day fund. That's something we don't have to do this year, which would help offset that number up to where we were pretty easily.
All right. Any concerns there? All right. Good with that? It looks good. Move on to personnel. HR report. I don't see any resignations. That's good. Excellent. Especially after we've started. Unemployment, Heather Clark, science teacher at Southwood High School, effective new school year. Kyra Stauffer, paraprofessional, Southwood Elementary, effective 8/19. Amy Darland, paraprofessional, Southwood Elementary, effective 8/19. Erica Garber, ECA treasurer, Southwood and Northfield classified, starts 9/6. Gianna, is that Gianna Lowry? Sub SLP, for the WMAP, starts 8/20 until 12/7. Deborah Schenkel. She couldn't wait
Very long.
Deborah Schenkel, sub-teacher at Sharp Creek Elementary, effective immediately. Angie Bear, sub-paraprofessional, Metro North Elementary, and that's August 26th through October 2nd. And Kathy Lowry, sub-paraprofessional, Metro North Elementary, August 29th through October 4th. Under transfers, Cora Rozier, temp teacher, Metro North Elementary, from September 3rd to November 22nd. And Lori Schultz, temp teacher, Metro North Elementary, August 26th through October 4th. And we got a few coaches at Northfield for robotics. Scott Ross, 8th grade, Cami Ross, 8th grade, Matt Hodson, 9th grade, Cheryl Hodson, 9th grade, Jason Lyons, 10th and 11th grade, Amanda Lyons, 10th and 11th, and Sherman Gray, 12th grade.
Move to accept HR.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the HR report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good deal. Heartland.
We had our meeting about a week ago, I guess it was. Report on student enrollment, they have 602 students right now. They expected probably by the, everything falls through, they hope it to remain around about 590 at that point. They had some donations from Wilma Ray Memorial. They had $850 for the early childhood education. TSC also gave them, it was between 8 and 10 lithium batteries for building trades. They were display models, so they'll still work, but that's a nice little donation for those guys out there. The big thing was, last week I gave you, or last time I gave you a copy of the new operating agreement. We had lively discussion about that. We don't have to make a decision tonight or anything like that, but they're talking about trying to change the way the operating agreement is, who sits on that board. We had discussed having superintendents do it completely because they meet at least once a month, is that correct? That's already with Mr. McWhorter. And then we meet with the board, and it seems there's a lot of, there's not a lot of flow because we make a decision or we can't make a decision till these guys do. And since 1965 or whatever, it's been good, but now we've got spending money and things that have to be repaired and stuff like that. And it's just so hard to get board members like myself making a decision, yeah, we need to do that, but then we have to go back to our schools. And these guys know their money a lot better than we do, or at least I think they should anyway. But we had a lot of discussion about this. There's one or two schools that don't want to change. And the way the operating agreement works, if 3 out of the 5 schools decide that, then it would change. And on that board, who we as this board selected to be on that board doesn't have to be a board member. It could be Mr. Kiefaber right now. Peru schools did that for years, and there was no problem with that. But the issue that a lot of guys or people talk about is, well, we are the trustees or as such. I get that. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I know Kevin has mentioned.
Share minds.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Did it come across, Matt, as any kind of compromise to just go ahead and put superintendents in those positions?
Yeah, and have it much like a Miami area program.
So if a school didn't want their superintendent in there and they wanted somebody such as yourself to represent this board, then we'd be able to do that too.
I believe that's correct.
Well, right now, that's what they.
That's the way it is right
The
now.
agreement says
Yeah,
right
the
now.
operating agreement says each member board shall appoint a representative to, they use the term council, but to the
Board of managers.
that board, yeah, the board of managers, that's right.
It doesn't matter who.
That's the way it's
That's
set.
present.
Correct.
Yeah, that's at present, yeah.
The future,
And I think there's a written request for an amendment pending,
yes.
that once that goes out, formally, once the council gets around to it, each board will be asked whether or not they want to adopt that new amendment. The new amendment, when we bring it back to you, will essentially say, the board shall appoint its then serving superintendent. So, and that, as long as that passed with 3 out of 5 members, that will become a term in the new operating agreement.
Correct. And some of the other schools said, well, you change over superintendents, here and there, and you won't have continuity. I know 3 members from other schools that will not be there next year. There's very little continuity sometimes from, we've been really good here through the years, having the same person year after year. But that doesn't happen at a lot of other schools. It's sort of like the short straw. And now you're that one. And there's a lot of absentee people. And that makes it difficult to get things done correctly, because we've had to postpone meetings. You're all set up and there's nobody there.
Why do you suppose that is? They just don't treat it with enough importance that, like, when we vote you in at the beginning of our organization,
Mm-hmm.
at the first of the year, you do an excellent job, Matt, I'm glad you're in there. The other schools, they can't find a candidate that would commit to it with interest.
They commit, but they don't commit wholeheartedly. Let's put that. It's easy for them, or it seems to me easy for them not to be there. And I'm not saying everybody, but there's enough. And I'm not pointing anybody out, but it's just disappointing.
Do you think it'd be better to have the superintendent like?
Well, the advantage is they're already meeting once a month anyway.
And they don't meet with you guys at all.
No, and it was discussed.
Well, we can go, like, I've been to some of the meetings.
Oh, he's been, yeah. And I just, they said, well, we could just co-meet at the same time. I said, that's great. We're gonna meet at lunch when they do? Or are you gonna force them to meet when we do?
I mean, I can see some benefit of that, but is that too many for the superintendent, or where's your plate? I don't know, obviously it's one of those things that maybe that's why they don't want to push more responsibility onto their superintendent. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I'm all right with it, but there's something you could go to every night, right? So that would just have to be a priority.
Of course, my concern is you're heading into these capital projects where there's going to be large dollars spent. How
Right.
well can this school district be represented in the matters, in those matters? So that's my one concern, which is a better approach.
It's a valid concern that.
Organically from the board itself, or by way of the superintendent back to the board?
It's something we can think about. That's something that,
And I don't know in an agreement, if you did switch it over to superintendents, that there were certain specific
we still,
situations that maybe would require the school's board approval on certain things, like we were talking about building projects.
still has to come back.
That maybe it would come back to you guys. for
Let's
those
just
final
pick on the roof
decisions.
for the renovation of that.
Mhm.
That decision would have to be approved then.
I mean,
No, it does not.
it doesn't have to be, but I'm
No,
saying
what
if
he's
you're,
saying,
if
if you wanted to.
if you
change
wanted
it.
if you wanted to change something like that to have some of that protection there, I'm sure you could write that into an agreement somewhere.
I trust Mr. Keyfeather, but we're making a decision for years from now.
Mhm.
That's-
Could involve other superintendents.
Well, true.
Just like on this roof project, it's been delayed 2 to 3 years. And that, just like everything else, is cost, you know, it was estimated around 800,000 to 900. Now we're at, was it 1.2 million?
But as you know, there was had to be some push, because if there wasn't any push, I think we still would just be there.
Oh, I know.
And I think that's come from us.
Yeah.
On that part of it too, so.
And-
Otherwise, it's just not gonna get done, so.
And you're dealing with 5 school districts that all have different financial situations. And how do you blend them and try to pick up the pace on certain things? Fortunately, you guys have got us in good position. We haven't been the foot dragger in this deal, so. But anyway, that's, so we'll have to look at before the end of the year sometime. And then we're gonna talk about NIPSCO later.
Superintendent.
Yeah, since you talked about construction, I just wrote down, you know, here again, locker room and weight room still working on those. A lot of dust, like was mentioned earlier by Mr. Snyder, but that's progress. Also tennis courts, they're really moving along with those. We've had real good weather though, right, too? It's not very much rain to have all the things that are going on. Of course, the demo, the new construction at Northfield with Northfield Elementary. If you haven't seen that, you can almost visualize now the pad as far as how that has been done, because they have that compacted to, you know, it's a dirt pad right now with some stone, but at least you can actually see some of that coming together as far as what that would actually look like. Bid phase number 3, opening of all of those bids will be on September 10th, so we're excited about that because that will include the things that have to be done and also the alternates. So looking forward to September 10th to see how that all works out. And then that will come to you for approval at the following board for the end of the second one in September.
24th.
Maybe.
Somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that
Or maybe
one or
it's
the first one in
October,
October.
it's one of those, yeah.
Will Wygant's be giving recommendations on that at Bard Cove?
Wygant's the one that will
Wygant's been
open it.
giving us recommendations. I mean, they'll go through they need to go through a process to filter through all of those things and make sure that they bid on what they needed to bid on, and they didn't leave something out or whatever.
Because again, they are the constructors at risk, so they're the ones at risk. And then it'll be just like phase 1 and phase 2 as far as what we're doing. Of course, the digital signs, so it's very exciting. I appreciate all the work that people have done on those. They're up and working now. And then there's a fence project at Northfield that they have most of the poles in, I think, right now. And they'll be putting that up. But we just learned that most of those were only in the ground 18 inches. That's not very good, right? That's why a lot of it was falling down and something like that. So that was a problem. But anyway, that's all I really have right now. Of course, we're moving along with school since this is a Tuesday. We're almost 3 weeks in already, and things are in a good groove right now. So, already Labor Day. All right, Tim.
Yeah, I've got some stuff finally to share to you. It takes them this long, the state of Indiana, to release IRE3 pass books, and so you can see those there in comparison. A special thank you to Laura Lange-Bartels for making that pretty little graph. For your information, we're going to call it IRE3, but starting this year, all second graders and third graders will take a test. And if you're a second grader and don't do well, whatever, then that gives schools a chance to remediate that stuff. So, starting now, it is still a third grade mandatory passing test, but second graders take it. Next thing, we received our results from a lot of our AP exams, and you can see there, if your memory is good, last year I compared it to Indiana University. This year it's Purdue University's time. And so if all of our kids that had AP tests went to Purdue, they would have earned 256 credits just in their AP scores alone. So the Purdue University president just wrote a letter. Several aspects of the letter talked about how important it is to do AP classes. That dual credit is good, but that AP does a better job of preparing students to do well in classes. And so the timing was perfect, which is great. And special recognition of these kids, you can kind of see the different distinctions they've gotten. We have some current students who are now, those are all juniors, who are now seniors. And then underneath that, you see the seniors from last year who went on to graduate. And so you can see a couple of them got perfect scores on multiple exams. That's just very impressive to do that. So scroll down, just keep it, but it might be just there's one more, yeah. And so it's really cool, really cool. Yeah, any questions about that? Yeah, other than the impressive. Yeah. The next one, I think Mr. Kefeber shared these with you while I was not able to be here, but I wanted to make sure we had those. Obviously, our goal is to stay around state average. We have been trying to focus mostly at junior high. That's kind of where our numbers dip. And so we think it's more student motivation rather than student skill, junior high kids and that. And so we have been trying to find ways to get to be a little more, take it more seriously. So you can see, actually get a good assessment of that. So you can see those again, thanks to Laura Lange-Bartels for putting those together. And then the last bit, I feel like I've flown through this. Stop if something comes up. The last bit, then, the state of Indiana has taken the iLearn test, the old iStep, and now they're going to break it apart into pieces. And so we are participating this year in the pilot program. Next year, the whole state will have to do it. Basically, what they're doing is they're taking all of the standards and they're saying by this checkpoint, you will have covered these standards. When you get to this checkpoint, you'll check these standards and so on. So that when you get to the final test, the plan is your test, Scott's test will be different from Mike's test. Because Scott demonstrated in checkpoint 1 that he did pretty good on standard 2, whereas Mike struggled immensely on standard 2. And so we're gonna have to ask him a lot of questions about standard 2 and the summative. And the idea, so there's that, and it makes that test shorter. It's not nearly as invasive. And when we take those checkpoints, teachers are supposed to get those results very soon. Right now, they're saying within 24 hours. Maybe we'll believe that, but we hopefully sooner than that means I'll have that information about Mr. Kefeber and standard 2, and I'll be able to then help him on standard 2 before we get to the next checkpoint. And so, in theory, it sounds really good, and hopefully it works like they say it will. And so that is grades 3 through 8, which we normally use NWEA testing for. But in order to not test so much, since we're doing the checkpoints now, we are going to shrink who uses NWEA down to K to 2, because they don't do the iLearn test. So K to 2 will keep continuing with the old NWEA that everybody knows. Grades 3 through 8 won't do the NWEA. They will do the iLearn checkpoints. And this year is just a pilot. It's just to kind of get a feel and test it out. And then next year, we expect all of it to be live. That's a lot.
I always thought you, Tim, you really liked the NWEA because you got the growth comparison.
Teachers
Now we
love
don't
it.
have that individual growth assessment.
That's the best thing about NWEA. It's nationally, and you can see Mr. Kefeber did from the fall to the winter to the spring. And so as a teacher, you could say, man, I helped him, or man, we really did do whatever. So it had a lot of benefits, but the state of Indiana doesn't seem to think it satisfies the federal requirements that we have to give to tests. So they've never approved the NWA for this test. And so that's why we had the iStep and now the iLearn. And so it would have been great if they would just went with the NWA and not had the iLearn at all.
Most schools across the state would agree that it would be better to have an NWA, which is what the Tim said, so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Drake, since I need a remediation, can you explain to me, can you explain to me why scores seem so high on the iRead?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now for the iLearn, the percentages are lower.
Now, that's a great question. As you can see, he's making progress. This is growth. When we do the iRead 3 is a basic reading test. And so very low level skills, minimal skills in order to progress. And so it is expected, the state of Indiana has a goal of 100%, which I don't think
95% by 2027 or 2020.
Which, we won't get to that, but it's reasonable to expect 90%. As a matter of fact, We're a little bit low right now at 87. Usually we're around that 90 percentile. So that's a basic skills, basic level test. Whereas the I-Learn is a college readiness test. And it's very ironic. The state just sends out lots of mixed messages of, we really want kids to go into the workforce and we want to, you can do all of that. And then we're going to test you and hold you accountable to kids that are preparing for college, even though we're going to tell these kids, hey, you don't have to go to college. You can get a great career doing this. And so it presents lots of challenges, but the I-Learn is in essence, when you look at those percentages, that percentage of students are on track, wherever grade they are, to be successful in college. And so it stands to reason that a basic level test is going to have a lot more success, right, than the college prep. And so, so yeah, that's a good question.
The reason why we ask that question though is because if you don't know all of that information, you just wonder why those scores are so much different between the two sets of tests.
So the I-Learn is all what grade level again?
3 through 8. And it was really hard. That first year they made switch to I-Learn, our scores dropped significantly. I mean, Sharp Creek, I think, was in the 90s the year before in I-Step, and then in I-Learn it was down. And everybody's like, what do we do wrong or whatever? Well, they completely changed the test. And it's a very good test if you're measuring college readiness. But that's not what we were measuring before. We were just measuring basic skills, which seems to me probably more realistic if you're going to test the whole population. Because some kids, there's no reason, they're not going to go to college.
So is there any indication with this new graduation? You know, because obviously, you know, if you got kids that you know that aren't going, there should be a different test.
There sure should be, but no, they will show up in our SAT scores. And so a student that's at Heartland that already has a job at Fort Knoxville, and they're going to have to take that SAT.
We're accountable for the SAT score, but the students not.
Right, it won't impact them, but our high schools will reflect that score.
Yeah, and that's where the flaw is because, you know, they don't care.
No, they don't
I mean,
care.
They're
What's
just
the motivation for that kid to?
Now, if you will,
Right, to sit for a 3-hour test.
He's already making money on, so what's the point? So, yeah,
All right, thank you, Mr. Gray.
yeah,
all right, we have, under new business, we have a recommendation to approve the corporate authorization resolution, which is just.
Yeah, so we did this last board meeting too, but with the new hire of a bookkeeper at Northwood, Southwood, we just need a resolution stating that she would be allowed to be on our bank accounts for those 2 buildings. So we have, like I said last time, we have 3 signees. We require 2 signees on checks. So it's usually the bookkeeper, the principal, and myself as those 3 designated signatories, so.
Motion and second for that.
so.
Second.
So moved.
You got a motion and a second to approve the corporate authorization resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then next, our NIPSCO project at Heartland Career Center.
You're the board of managers.
No, I can just pass it on.
I can do that. You're my boss, so you can tell me that. So, well, basically, you know the situation with the NIPSCO project, and the big question, there were lots of different questions, but as far as the easements, there were some questions about that. I think those somewhat have been answered in some of the meetings that Matt has attended. One of the big questions was, though, too, the actual land value, and the latest that we heard, that they did come back, instead of having the $10,000 per acre on that, it was $25,000 per acre. And then I'll look to, I guess, Josh, too. I think the Heartland Career Center school attorney also said that what had to happen was that each member of board had to vote for approval of that, or is that correct then?
That sounds correct, yeah.
Okay, and so that's the discussion that all of you need to have. And so we didn't really put on their recommendation, but there can be a vote if that's what you want to do tonight. They did, I know Floyd Work would like for this to come back to the board of managers then.
I have not seen the new draft of the new higher number.
You have not seen
There's
that?
another new higher number.
I've
There,
not seen
it is, okay, and I haven't seen that, and I was gonna maybe ask, but I
I
haven't.
just got it
And what is that then?
at 32,000 an acre.
Okay.
It was at 25 because I said, that's not high enough. I said, ground around here is industrial. So,
And it's not, go ahead.
and they're gonna give you, for the 1 acre they're gonna do, they're only gonna give you half of that to begin with. Or period, instead of, say it was a 25, they're only gonna give you 12 for it, and I don't understand that. But that's,
And here again, it's only 1 acre, so it's not.
it's not a huge deal.
It's not a huge deal, and I believe that what Mr. McWhirr would say too, obviously, this is for the project, mainly for Ford, meter box for the new, boundary there, also for some gas to the east of town too.
Because they're gonna connect the two pipes together.
Right, and so, obviously, that's been good partnerships with that, and they do things for us and donate all the time to us, but, you know, for NIPSCO, they should, you know, look at the value of the land and get close to what it is, so. That's nice to hear that. I heard, when I
Yeah.
talked to him last and we talked, I knew that there was some, negotiation a little bit after the 25,000, so I'm glad to hear that.
I just got that a minute ago, so.
Okay. I
Uh,
don't know any other discussion.
I was trying to recall, how far off the center of the road is that line going to be laid in? 60 feet or?
No, it's not gonna be that way. It's just, because they got the power poles there, they gotta have enough room to go past the power poles. And they can't go on the other side of the road because there's bones or something, I don't know, so. My big concern is still correct, if they cut tile, that it's fixed correct.
I think that was put in there also, some damage to crops, there were damage.
Damage to crops and so on, but the way they made it sound, crops may be off before they get to this part, because they're gonna start from the east first. So harvest may be done there by the time they get there, they're talking late October, November possibly.
I forget what's there.
Cool.
I'll work with Floyd too and get what they think is a final draft to make sure that kind of what we thought were the final round of concessions, if you
Right.
will, match up with the new draft as well, so.
But we got another meeting before Hartley, so this week.
I wonder how that new number figures for the bottom line, because when I went ahead and spent a little time, just so I had an excuse being in air conditioning this afternoon. And I looked at this and it just seemed a little bit almost convoluted, or it could be simplified. Like the piece that deals with Bob Schultz's damage should just be taken care of, whatever. I mean, that should be between them.
Right,
in a way.
right.
Because you don't know, it could be practically nothing.
It could be nothing by the time they get to that.
But there's also the problem of farming around those
Those,
things.
yeah.
Which is, we're mostly farmers here, we understand what that does. I mean, all of a sudden, you do not auto path, you know, your second path. It screws up
More
auto.
obstacles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that comes into play a little bit as far as the farming side of it. But I just threw a number after looking at all that, and I'm not saying this is my position, but I was just working down through here, and I was just gonna round the number off like 40,000 or something,
Mhm.
and say, that's what I'm agreeable to, you know? So,
Yeah.
rather than go through breaking it down here like a 20 by 20 land rental loss due to valve easements and things like that, just it's understood basically,
Yeah,
just put a number on it.
just put a round number on it, rather than saying,
Put a
we'll
round,
give you this at half and this at a fourth.
yeah.
And it,
That, I guess that's what, the thought that came to me.
yeah,
And I in no way want to be an obstructionist to this, because I'm all for it, and like Mr. Keypaper said, Ford Meter Box is an excellent community partner all the way around.
yes,
So we don't want to cause any kind of delay in anything that
correct.
we're involved in.
So again, the one concern, we're not gonna be landlocked. This is
They said it, you can still,
accessible across.
yeah,
So
and
it's
people
gonna
can
be
tap into it.
They can tap into it, they can run electric lines across it.
I would assume so, or
It's gonna be 8 foot deep, how deep was that gonna be?
as low as they can, little as they can.
Okay.
They said 18 inches, 2 foot.
Was it?
Well, that was that, and depending on the top, the pipe isn't steel, it's plastic, so it can be moved and bent and stuff like that. But they were looking at, they're gonna dig a trench rather than, it's not gonna be bored, so they'll know when they can stop.
How big is the line?
12 inches. 12-inch line.
Think of plastic.
It does, doesn't it?
Like a geyser.
Can't use it
Yeah.
forever.
Probably,
It's only
Probably
18
some
inches
spots,
deep. Pretty clear shallow then too.
well, I think it's probably gonna be closer to 3 feet.
Okay. So that's pretty shallow.
One, one question I have too, Matt, where will this money end up in what account?
Well, it should just end up into Heartland as a group, because if you start dividing it back up to the schools, then you're gonna have to beg them.
Yeah, no, I in no way expected that, I just wondered.
I hope maybe it'd be something that God says some of these projects.
The road.
Well, that's
The
where
road
my
project.
thoughts were,
Right,
that they would
right.
go
Put it
to some
into
of the
the-
capital.
Capital projects and so on.
They should. Right, so do you want, there was no really vote on that, because we didn't put that on there, but you wanted to.
Let's hold off until we find
I
out.
think that final,
Yeah, we do have the September 10th, I think he wanted to have
He's
that,
got it.
your September 13th meeting or something, I don't know if that's right.
It's the third Wednesday,
Okay.
whatever date that is.
Yeah, that's not till the 18th, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
So we got another meeting in between, and
Yes, the 10th.
hopefully we'll get this lined up better.
I'll let us know, we'll get that squared away. All right, any unfinished business? Board policy, public comment.
I wanted to thank Matt for his time and interest in Career Center over the years. As a former student many years ago, I can tell you that the same districts probably were an issue back then as far as the kids that got in the class I was in. And there was a waiting list for Northfield and Southwood students to get in to office training, but it wasn't so. A friend of ours who has subbed sees the same thing. You've got the kids who really want to be there and really want to learn, and you've got the kids that don't. And I'm going to guess the board members who aren't showing up are the same districts who are putting that commitment to sending students who truly want to learn and take advantage of it. I don't know how we fix it, but I would suggest that this group of Wabash County leaders who want collaboration among our districts look at this problem, because it's already a collaboration that we're doing among the county schools. So how about they look at it and they spend their time and energy and money in trying to get that fixed and see what we can do to get the roof fixed and the issues. Because if there's a waiting list again this year, I know last year
Well,
you
there
said
is.
there was a waiting list. What can we do to get the classes that the kids need to take? Because those are the kids, it's cost society in the end if they don't get that jump start on a career. So thank you for over the years, because I know we've talked and I know that you dedicated a lot of time and thought and energy into it.
And I've enjoyed it. I've met a lot of different people, but I enjoy seeing those kids come in there and work and stuff like that. My children have gone through there. It's been a good experience.
All right, any other comments? Any items from the board member? Not, we'll adjourn.